Okay, guys, so this video I'm making just because I don't know how far we're going to get today in class. I know the homework last night would have been a little bit difficult, so I wanted to make sure that we had enough time, especially since I'm not here for the second half, to really dig in a little bit and get the idea of synthetic division. Also, if you didn't understand the first time, then maybe watching it again, stopping it, slowing it down will help you out. So we're talking about synthetic division. So what I like about synthetic division is just a much quicker way to do long division, and it takes up less space. So these are words you should know, but in case you don't know, dividend is the number being divided. So if I'm dividing 4 divided by 2, then 4 is the dividend, and the divisor is 2, which is the number being divided. So those are just words to keep in mind, because if you look on our first example, the first thing we're going to do is expand the dividend. So the dividend in this case would be x squared minus 5. And when I say expand the dividend, I just mean like write out all of the pieces. So it's x squared. And then just like when we were doing long division, even though there's no x, I'm going to put plus 0x because that doesn't do anything, and minus 5, because the leading degree, the degree is 2. So I want to make sure from 2, I have all of the degrees accounted for. So I have 2, 1, 0. All right, so I expanded the dividend, and so now I'm going to set up synthetic division by putting the divisor value of x in the box. So the divisor is x minus 5, which means if I were to find the horizontal intercept, I would set this equal to 0, and x would be 5. So my divisor is going to be 5. So I'm going to put 5 here, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw my box around it. And all I do for that is I just make 2 little lines. A line down here, and then a line right there. Okay, so I have it set up, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to list the coefficients of the dividend in the first row. So what I like to do is, just so I kind of have my guide, is keep this here. I'm going to move it up a little bit. And then now I'm going to list my coefficient. So the coefficient of x squared is 1. Coefficient of 0, because there's no x. And then that is a constant, so I'm just going to put there negative 5. I'm going to move these so they're even a little bit, at least more even, because it will bother me. Bother some of you more. All right, so now I have my coefficients listed in the top row. I'm going to bring down the first coefficient to below. So just because I'll make this thinner. I'm going to drop this first coefficient's 1, so I'm going to drop a 1 down here. And I'm going to put 1 here. And we'll make this bigger. Yes, my love. Why are you bleeding? What did you do? Oh, you're not bleeding. That's just a scab from yesterday. You're okay. No. Okay, well, I'll take care of it in a second, okay? I can go get... It's okay. It's okay. I'll grab you the bag. Wanna play? Yeah. Okay, it's okay. Yeah, I'm going to find you a Band-Aid. Okay, here you go. All right, so... yeah, sorry about that. So right now we're on step 5. So now I'm going to multiply the number in the box, which in this case is 5, by the number below. So 5 times 1 is 5. So I'm going to put 5 here. Okay. And now I'm going to add. So 0 plus 5 is 5, and I just drop it down below. So 5 times 1, again, I'll draw a little arrow so you can see where it came from. 5 times 1. Let's change it to green. Nope, I can't do that. There we go. So I did 5 times 1 is 5. Okay. And then you add the 2. 0 plus 5 is 5. And I'll even put that in a different color. Plus 5 equals 5. And so what's nice is it just kind of follows this pattern. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that process until all coefficients. So I've already taken care of the 0. Now I just got to deal with the -5. So same thing, 5 times 5 in this case is going to be 25. So I'm going to put 25. And now -5 plus 25 is 20. And so this is actually my remainder. The last number is your remainder. So we're going to box that because that is the remainder. Oh, and that's not a box. Well, because that's a box. There we go. Sorry. So now that I have it, what's interesting is that once you have factored, did your dividing, I don't know if you guys noticed this pattern, but when we divided before, gotta listen to that CoComelon, guys. The coefficient was always one less of what the dividend was. So here, sorry, not the coefficient, the degree. So here, the coefficient, the degree is x squared. Well, all I did was just divide by an x. So I took an x out of everything. So my degree is going to be lower. So the leading coefficient of the factor is going to be, it's going to be of a degree 1. So I'm going to have x, because remember it's 1x, but I don't need to write 1x. So this 1 goes with x plus 5. And that is going to be the factor there. And then it has remainder 20. And remainder 20. I'm going to write remainder 20 because for my final answer, remember I need to put it into factored form. So my final answer, I have x minus 5, which is the first factor that they gave us, x plus 5. Then I write plus 20 because that is the remainder. Okay. And that is our answer. So you can see it's a little bit easier. It's definitely a lot quicker than long division. It's just, again, you have to keep in mind that this 1 is now of a degree less. So like if I were doing x to the 4th, for example, then my first term would have a degree of x cubed. Okay. So we're going to try another one because I do believe in second examples. But this one, we're just going to take it to the next level. So this one, on this example, it's asking us to find all of the factors. So here, all we did is divide. We actually didn't find all of the factors. So right now, we're going to divide, and then we're going to factor that. So like if I had gotten x squared plus 4, for example, when I divided, I would need to factor that to get whatever it would equal. So that's what we're going to do now. Some important notes: you need to divide, and then you cannot get a remainder if you are factoring. If we are factoring, then that means that the number that we're dividing, so like in this case, 5 is not a true factor of this function because we have a remainder. But if for some reason I had gotten 0 in this box, then it would actually be a factor, which just means that if I were to graph this, and you guys can check that, if I graph this, 5 is not a horizontal intercept. So the idea now is that we want this number here that they're giving us to be a horizontal intercept. So let's highlight that because that is important, especially since this homework was dumb. It didn't give you a factor, especially for yesterday's homework. You had a remainder for everything. So if you get a remainder, it is not a factor. That's important. Okay. So let's do this. We're going to find all factors, and this time they're telling us c is equal to 1/2, and c is just that factor, the number that's going in the box. So don't really pay too much attention to it. Don't get freaked out that it's a c and not an x. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my box. I'm trying to make a straight line. I'm really trying, guys. There we go. Okay, and remember, same thing, I want to list my coefficients. So in this case, my coefficients are going to be 2, -3. Why is it putting a dot? I don't want a dot, stupid. Right, -3. Dumb. -11. And 6. So this one was nice enough to give me actually all of the coefficients. I didn't have to put any zeros here because they're I have 3, 2, 1, 0. And then in this box, I'm going to put 1/2. All right. So now that I got all these guys here, I'm going to drop down the first one. Boom. And my first number is 2. And if you guys remember, the first step, I encourage you to pause this video and try to divide on your own. Okay, so try to do that. If you can't, you can watch me do it, but it is going to be good practice for you to try doing it on your own. Okay, so when you're multiplying by 1/2, this is pretty easy. It's just asking, well, what's half of that number? So half of 2 is 1. Don't do that. So I'm going to put 1 here. All right, and then remember, I need to add these two numbers. So -3 plus 1 is -2. I love you. Sorry, my daughter's leaving for school. All right, and then I'm going to do that again. What's half of -2? Half of -2 is -1. And then -11 minus 2 is -12. Well, what's half of -12? -6. And then 6 minus 6 is 0. So that's what we wanted. We wanted it to end up with no number here in this last box, which means it has no remainder. So we did a pretty solid job. Okay, so this means that 1/2 is a true factor or intercept of this function. So then now what I'm going to do is, remember, I need to convert this into actually a quadratic. So I'm going to say, looking for that tool. So this, I'm just going to kind of skip ahead. This becomes 2x squared minus 2x minus 12. Okay, now I need to factor this. And since I know most of you like the quadratic formula, that is the method that I'm going to go with. Just because, again, that's what I know you guys are comfortable with. If you are comfortable with factoring, you remember you multiply 2 by -12. What number multiplies into -24 but adds to -2 and split it up that way? So let's go ahead and use the quadratic formula. And remember, that is x equals, I think I have to go ahead and make this in front. Yeah. X equals -b. And then I got to use that plus or minus symbol. Minus the square root. Where are you at? All right, plus or minus the square root, there we go, of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So if I plug in those numbers, I'm going to see if I can copy this. And let's see if this will save me sometimes. Yes! I'm plugging my numbers. I'm sorry, I got really excited about that. All right, so then I have x equals -b. Well, b in this case is 2. So it's -2, which is just +4, plus or minus the square root of -2 squared minus 4 times a is 2 times c is -12. And I don't know if I explicitly said it, but all I'm doing is I'm taking this equation here that I got from dividing and putting it into the quadratic formula so I can find the intercepts. All right, and then a is 2 again. All right, if I start to simplify this, then x, so let's do equals arrow. X is going to equal 4, and then again I want to use that plus or minus. Plus or minus the square root of -2 squared is 4. So I'm having 4 plus whatever 8 times 12 is, so 4 plus 96, which is 100. All over 4. Okay, and then, is that right? Sorry, 96. Yeah, it's still 100. All right, sorry, brain fart. So then now I'm going to simplify that. So then really I'm breaking this up into the two problems of x equals, and then I'm going to have 4 plus the square root of 10 is, sorry, 100 is 10. So it's 4 plus 10. That's not what I wanted. 10 over 4. And then I also remember have the opposite answer, x is equal to 4 minus 10 over 4. Well, if I start solving this one, 4 plus 10 over 4 is 14 over 4, which is going to be 7 halves. And then over here, I'm going to have 4 minus 10 over 4, which is equal to negative 6 over 4, which is negative 3 over 2. Okay, so now I have all of my zeros. So now I just need to put this into factor form. So I have x equals 7 halves and x equals negative 3 halves. And then what they gave me, the x is equal to 1 half. So these are all of the possible factors of this equation, which checks out because it's of degree 3, which means there should be at most 3 factors. If I had gotten 4, I did something wrong. Okay, but if I had gotten 2, that might actually be okay, because remember, that doesn't necessarily mean it crosses 3 times. So last step, put it into complete factored form. So I'm going to have x minus 1 half. And remember, that's because it's the opposite, right? It's coming from x minus 1 half means that x is equal to 1 half. So then likewise, instead of x plus 7 halves, it's going to be x minus 7 halves, because x is equal to 7 halves. And finally, x plus 3 halves. So just remember that whatever you get for your intercept, you have to make it the opposite. And then now it's completely factored and we are done.